Hey guys, I'm Little Art Demon and welcome to my channel, and today we have another Good Omens video because apparently I can't stop thinking about this show. In this video we'll have a continuation of the Good Omens alternative universe drawings. I've made one video exploring a few ideas already, so you can watch that video after this one. They don't have a specific order to them. This time we'll have 3 reimaginings of our sweet Crowley and Aziraphale, but I kept something. For this one they'll still have the same angel and demon sort of stories, kind of. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it will be easier to understand when you see the drawings, so don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you haven't, and let's get started with this video. The first idea is something that I've seen a few times around the internet, but I decided to give it a chance to, and see what I can come up with. And that idea is what if their roles were reversed. And I'm not talking about Michael Sheen playing Crowley and David Tennant playing Aziraphale, even if that would have been fun to watch. A tangent here, but I know Michael Sheen primarily from his role as Arrow from Twilight, and even though those movies are questionable, Arrow makes it worth it. So when I heard that an old evil vampire was now a sweet angel, I was a little shocked, but it works so well. I can't imagine Aziraphale being played by anyone else. And I know a lot of people were expecting David Tennant to play the angel as well, but he's perfect as Crowley. But tangent aside, for this drawing I'm imagining if Aziraphale was one that became a demon and Crowley stayed an angel. I didn't write a short story for this like I've done in some other videos, but let me tell you what I imagined this storyline would look like. Crowley was still an angel that created the stars, but when Aziraphale met him in space, he didn't tell him about how the universe would be shut down eventually. He felt bad after seeing how much love Crowley has for his creations. Aziraphale was then the one to question God. He did not mean to provoke her, but we know what happened to Crowley in the show after he tried to just share some ideas. Because Aziraphale refused to tell Crowley about the stars, he was sentenced to hell and became the snake. Returning to Crowley, because he did an amazing job on the stars, he was given the opportunity to create more stuff. He was now in charge of creating the plants and flowers that would go on Earth. We know that Crowley is great with plants, so it would only make sense that he would be the one to create them. A little later, when the Garden of Eden was created, Aziraphale was sent there to tempt Adam and Eve to eat the apple, and Crowley was sent to make sure that the plants were doing okay. It was in the garden that Aziraphale discovered that he really loves food, and as you may know, gluttony is one of the sins of Christianity, so it would only make sense for a demon that loves food to tempt other people to eat. But it did last a little longer than anticipated because he just kept eating all the apples. That was actually what made Eve want to eat the apple. She saw him eating the apple and liking it and nothing bad happened, so she grew curious, and the rest is known. Crowley and Aziraphale would have a very similar relationship through the years, and their feelings for each other would be there as well. I imagine Aziraphale's temptations would be related to food, but not harmful things. I imagine he would accidentally create cheese, and hell would be like, wow, you're making humans eat moldy milk and they're liking it and can't stop eating it now, they put it in everything, good job! He may have even been praised by Marie Antoinette's doings, even if he had nothing to do with it. But anyway, I imagine Crowley having a greenhouse or a garden of some sort connected to where he lives. But one thing he needs to have is a big window in the ceiling where he can look at the stars he made every night. He doesn't know God plans to destroy them, no one bothered to tell him, and Aziraphale didn't have the strength to break his heart like that. I imagine that in this reversed universe, Crowley would still have the black and white thinking and Aziraphale would be the one to question things and think by himself. And I think that in this hypothetical universe there will be a tense moment where Crowley finds out that the stars would be destroyed, and that Aziraphale knew all along and didn't tell him. He would question why he became a demon when he could have simply told him, but Aziraphale didn't want to. And he has been trying to stop the war from happening because if the world doesn't end, neither does the universe. He didn't want to break his heart back then, and with every moment it just became harder to bring it up. I imagine that would be the season 2 sad finale of this fanfic I created in my head, but eventually they would talk and things would end up okay. And that was a lot, but let's talk about the drawings, shall we? For this one I made some extra sketches of Aziraphale and Crowley in these forms. I kept Aziraphale with blue tones and a little bit of brown, as well as Crowley with pinks and yellows. I think Crowley with braids in the hair is gorgeous, so I made a cute hairstyle that she's rocking. Gorgeous, beautiful, never wrong. I added some flowers too because I can, and it looks cute. And in the final drawing, Crowley is giving strawberries to Aziraphale. I imagine that a part of his garden is just full of fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, mainly for Aziraphale. He literally created food plants. How can Aziraphale not love him? That's the first reason on why he fell in love. I'm so invested in this now, so let me ramble just a little bit more before going to the next drawing. Okay, so Aziraphale loves food, and I can just imagine him being the one to tempt Crowley into eating the ribs in Job's house. I can imagine Aziraphale drinking the laudanum in Edinburgh, not because he wanted necessarily to save our adorable gravedigger Elspeth, but because he was curious on how it tasted. He would eat anything, being it food or not, because he can't die from it. He does have side effects, and Crowley does need to help him a lot because of that. And can you imagine the exact scene where Aziraphale tries to tempt Crowley into eating an oyster? I say that it happens in this universe and it's not a mistake! And just to finish, you know that moment where they go to that convent and get hit by paintballs and Crowley gets rid of the stain in Aziraphale's jacket? Now it's Aziraphale that saves Crowley's favorite flower shirt because he's the best at removing stains. Otherwise he would always be covered in food stains, and that just makes sense. It is now canon in this fanfic that is just written in my brain and not a real fanfiction. Would you read it though? Because this started as a simple cute drawing and now I'm invested and talks a lot about it. So it's better to get to the next drawing or I won't be able to stop. This one is a little bit shorter because it doesn't have as much of a story associated with it. I just thought it would be fun to imagine Crowley and Aziraphale as different versions of angels and demons. In the show they look pretty human, but I've seen illustrations of biblically accurate angels, and so that got me thinking. I did a sketch of Aziraphale with the rings and extra eyes and wings, which is something we see a lot in those illustrations, but I did not do the research for that sketch. It was just a fun thing I wanted to get on paper. But this time I wanted to do a little bit more of that research on both angels and demons, and here's what I found. So let's start with our angel Aziraphale. After Adam and Eve left the garden, a cherub with a flaming sword was sent to guard their path. And who do we know that has a flaming sword? Aziraphale, of course. And cherubs have some crazy descriptions in the Bible, let me tell you that. They appear to have 4 faces, being them of a man, an ox, a lion and an eagle. They have cow feet, I believe, which I think is crazy because in some drawings it looks like goat feet, and I believe that's some devilish trait, but it doesn't matter for this one. They have possibly 4 hands and 4 wings too, 2 of them cover their bodies. It's also said that they have those mysterious wiring wheels, which I'm assuming to be those floating rings. But when I looked into cherub drawings, they didn't have those rings with eyes. They didn't have any for the most part, but when they did, they were just simple rings of light. So I tried to make a creature like that still looks a little bit like Aziraphale. You can tell me if I succeeded in the comments. And now let's get to Crowley, our snake demon. From what I found, the serpent of the Garden of Eden is described more in terms of actions than in physical appearance. To the point where they aren't sure if it is a snake or if that's metaphorical. But the serpent is described to be a trickster and represents temptation, namely physical temptation. So I had a little bit more of fun with this one because while Aziraphale in the show is nothing like the cherub amalgamation of creatures, Crowley is a snake sometimes and other times looks very human. And I imagine that to tempt someone sexually, it would be easier if the serpent looked human. It would be weird otherwise. But anyway, I just took Crowley as he is pretty much, but I gave him a few scales around his body. I imagine if this was them in the garden, Crowley would try to tempt Aziraphale too, which would be fun to watch. But I just took Crowley trying to get close to Aziraphale and maybe even remove one or both of the wings that cover his body. I don't know, who knows, that's up to your imagination because for this concept I don't have many story details. It's just a different representation of them and it was a lot of fun to draw. So let's get to the last one now. This is the one that I went more away from the angel-demon duality, but I think it still overlaps a little bit into that category. So let me explain what my thinking process was for this one. So while thinking of different demon and angel stories and versions, I was a little bit stuck until I remembered something I love. And that something is horror movies. And there are a lot of different types of horror movies. There are movies about scary people, aliens, monsters, animals, ghosts, and a lot more. And one that I really like are movies about demon possessions. There usually aren't angels in those stories, but there are demons, and in some of them there's someone with faith trying to exorcise the demon in question to leave the body of the possessed person. So I imagine in this universe Aziraphale would be that person. I don't know if he would be a priest necessarily or just someone that understands a lot about demons and wants to help because even if he's not a real angel, he's still a human angel. He just goes around helping people and sending demons back to their realm. Until one day, he gets a call from a family saying that something's wrong with their son, Adam. They say he's been acting weird and so Aziraphale goes there to help. When he gets there, the kid is acting normally and Aziraphale talks to him and asks when things changed. He said that a week ago he was walking with his friends around and he saw an apple tree. He went to take one, but when he bit it, he felt some sort of shock. Like his brain was overflowing with information all of a sudden, but he doesn't remember exactly what happened next. His friends say his eyes turned yellow and looked like a snake, and his voice was a little bit different for a moment. He asked them if they also wanted an apple, but they were scared so they didn't take it. Adam returned back to normal soon, and they took him home, but he feels like he needs to be close to the tree, like someone's whispering in his ear to be there. And in moments he returns to that state and only comes back to normal when someone finds him at the tree and refuses to eat the apple. His parents already know that, so they just go get him, but they're afraid he might get hurt doing that. He's walking alone on the street, sometimes at night, and it's not super safe. So Aziraphale says the best way to understand what's going on is to wait for one of those moments and talk to the demon. It can be tricky because they are very good liars, but he's an expert. So they wait a little and eventually the snake demon shows up and looks at them. He just starts walking outside a little suspicious of Aziraphale and then goes to the tree where he sits down. Aziraphale follows him and talks to the demon and he finds his name, Crowley. He asks what it is that he's doing and he says that they made the apple and so now he's in his body, which none of them like. So he's been trying to get someone else to eat an apple so that he can leave the boy alone and get a better body. Aziraphale asks why he wants that and he says he just likes to walk around and do human stuff, but a kid can't do much besides going to school. He can't even access his full power, so he just feels tired. As a professional, he knows what's happening and makes a deal with Crowley. He asks what would happen if he just cuts down the tree and Crowley says he doesn't know. Maybe he'll die and take Adam with him, maybe he'll be sent back to hell, or maybe he'll be free. He doesn't know. Aziraphale then agrees to eat the apple if that would free Adam, but Crowley will have to behave while they share a body. He agrees as long as he doesn't hurt the tree. And maybe they'll find some other way of dealing with that in the future, but for the moment that's the solution he can think about. And then the story starts. I don't imagine it as being a paranormal dark story, I think it would be lighthearted and fun. Adam and his friends would be protecting the tree so that no one else eats an apple and takes Crowley away, and Aziraphale just tries to live his life while Crowley is with him. With time they learn how to speak with each other, a little bit like Venom and Daddy in a way, and Aziraphale can even sync Crowley in some moments where they can talk face to face. He takes Crowley to do stuff and they try to figure out a way to fix things. But with time they bond with each other and they don't want to be apart, so they try to figure out a way to give Crowley his own permanent body without taking someone's life. I don't know the lore of this universe, but I imagine that with some research and some failed attempts they eventually succeed. Crowley now has become a human with some snake characteristics, but still mostly human. I'm not sure how that happened, but maybe the tree was destroyed and Crowley was sent away from Earth and found a way to return as a human. I don't know, it doesn't really matter that much. But I think they would end up happy together. I love happy endings. But tell me, which of these is your favorite? I really like to create these stories in my mind, just imagine different scenarios and exploring different designs. You can tell me in the comments which idea you liked most, and also if you have any idea you'd like me to explore here on the channel. And if you like this video, leave a like and don't forget that there's another video like this where I explore different ideas. And if you want to see more, subscribe. There will be more videos every Wednesday and there's a good chance they'll be Good Omens related. So thank you so much for watching, I appreciate you and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!